I've had the iPhone 11 Pro now for pretty much 2 months, and I thought I would do something that I'm going to call an unreview. So let's talk about how it has settled in for me and whether or not it's worth going out and getting after the new car smell has kind of worn off and you've used it enough that it's not new anymore. Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech so honest it hurts. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back again. Now, we've reached that point in the year where everyone has made iPhone videos or a bunch of iPhone videos, and we've looked at the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max, and we talked about every angle. We talked about the camera. We talked about everything compared to this phone and that phone, and we've looked at all the specs there are to look at. We've talked about all the specs. We've pulled it apart, we've put it back together. We've done all the stuff. So I'm going to try in this, what I'm going to call it, unreview, to just tell you what I think about the iPhone straight out, what it's really like to have lived with it for these past couple of months. I'll say this to start. Other than a few noteworthy features, which I'm going to go over as we go through the review, the iPhone 11 Pro is completely unremarkable. And that is a very good thing. The truth of the matter is, if you're watching this iPhone 11 Pro after a couple of months video, you want to know one thing. Does the iPhone 11 Pro, Pro Max, whatever, hold up after that new car smell has worn off, after there are a couple of scratches, or you've had it in a case for long enough to forget how sexy it is, or something like that? And so that's exactly what I'm going to try and give you right here. The specs of the phone are well known. The 11 Pro is 5.8 inches. The 11 Pro Max is 6.5 inches. The screen looks awesome. They're just really good screens, and you never really say like, oh, that's a good screen. In fact, that's kind of what's great about the iPhone 11 Pro overall. The phone itself doesn't really announce itself in any particular way. It doesn't have whiz-bang doodads and all that kind of thing. The build quality of the phone is great. The matte glass finish on the back feels really good. The stainless steel rails along the side feel solid, like you're really holding something solid in your hand. The phone itself has a nice weight to it. There's the notch, and however you feel about the notch, but that's just sort of the way that it is. I think the majority of people have kind of gotten over the notch at this point, and maybe the notch will go away soon, maybe it won't. But if that's something that's going to keep you from buying the phone, then you're probably not watching this video anyway. Every year, Apple says, this new iPhone is the best iPhone we've ever made. And while that might seem reductive and kind of stupid to the point of being insulting, they're not wrong. I mean, the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max are the best iPhones that Apple has ever made. I mean, they didn't slip backwards. In fact, they're the best iPhones they've ever made, maybe by a larger margin than some iPhones of the past. So we've cleared that out of the way. The iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max are extremely good iPhones. If you were worried that somehow the iPhone 11 Pros weren't gonna be up to snuff compared to their predecessors, fear not, they do. So how has the iPhone 11 Pro stood up for me in the 2 months since I've had it? Great. How's that? Okay, review over. Thanks for being... No. The reality is, this iPhone is just like other iPhones, and that's probably the best and the worst thing about it, depending on how you want to look at it. When you buy an iPhone, you know what you're getting. Even in the years where there are redesigns and new features and blah, 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 the iPhone is still the iPhone. Every year, a new version of iOS comes out with a few new bells and whistles. This year, most significantly to me, it was dark mode. Dark mode has saved my eyeballs. Thank you, dark mode. I can't understand how I've ever lived without you. But, well, if I was using an Android phone, but dark mode is one of the biggest features. That's the one that impacts me the most every day. But the best part about buying an iPhone is that once you set it up, whether it's from a cloud backup on iCloud or you start over from scratch, once you've sort of gotten your passwords figured out for all your different apps and that kind of thing, and everything's sort of saved in the right places, your new iPhone is just like your old iPhone. Maybe a little bit faster, but usually you won't even notice that. Maybe a little bigger, maybe a little smaller. You won't notice the difference in the screen from year to year, even though they seem to get better. At least that's what they say. They're always really good screens. No, if you buy an iPhone, within a week, it has become your iPhone. There's nothing different about it in all of the best ways possible. This is one of the reasons that the iPhone is so popular. It is what it is. You might feel that screens filled with icons that lack customizability and is restricting, and you want freedom and all that kind of stuff. But for the majority of iPhone users, this fact that you can basically have the same phone year after year after year after year with slight improvements is, I think, comforting. Of course, there are those couple of features that I do want to discuss about the iPhone 11 Pro, Pro Max that are decidedly different than previous iPhones and worth pointing out. This may be the thing that helps you understand whether or not you want to go out and get a new iPhone or you're good with what you've got. In my use, there have been three main features that have convinced me to stay with the Pro this year instead of moving down to the iPhone 11 like I did with the XS or the XR last year. The first of these aspects is the battery life. The iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max each have the best battery life I have ever experienced in a phone. The iPhone XR was good last year, but these two phones have pushed out past that phone. In fact, the iPhone 11 this year has a slightly better battery than the iPhone XR of last year. We can talk about milliamp hour sizes and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, literally, at the end of the day, all that matters is how much battery you have left in your phone and how that battery capacity has affected the way you used your phone throughout the day. Smartphones over the past couple of years have been getting better and better and better about reducing battery anxiety, I guess you call it. The new Pixel phones are maybe the lone exception. Most phones make it to the end of the day with enough juice for you to be comfortable, but that wasn't the case with the iPhone XS that I used some last year. There were some heavy use days where I had to charge before dinner, which wasn't a great feeling. I haven't had that experience at all with the iPhone 11 Pro. No, actually, I've made it through not 1, but 2 days on a charge more often than not. Just let that sink in. Most of the time, I put my phone on a charger every other day. The battery life on this phone is so good that I haven't actually used the 18-watt charger that everybody was like so excited about that was coming in the box, because it's easy for me just every other day to drop it on a wireless dock before I go to sleep, and then I'm good for another 2 days. That alone might be enough to sell people a brand new iPhone. The smaller of the two phones has 2-day battery life, and I know that that battery life is for real because I've been experiencing that battery life day in and day out now for the better part of 2 months. The next aspect that sets iPhone 11 Pro, Pro Max apart is the camera. We've seen the ugly camera thing, and before the phone came out, everybody was going crazy, myself included. But there are a lot of whiz-bang features inside this thing that are truly marvels of modern software engineering, from night mode to deep fusion, computational photography, and whatever magic they got into with the video department. That stuff is all cool. That's fine. But for the everyday person, the person who just, wants to get a picture out of their camera, what matters is whether or not the camera is going to take a good picture the majority of the time, no matter what fancy features it might have, etc., etc. And the iPhone 11 Pro, in the time that I've had it, has done just that. Point, shoot, picture. There have been a couple of times I didn't get a good shot in darker settings, possibly because I didn't fully understand night mode yet, but 99% of the time when I point and shoot, I'm getting what I see. And if I slow down and take my time, I can get really great looking photos out of this thing. It's kind of unbelievable. The 3 lenses Apple put on these cameras may look funny, but they represent a major step forward in Apple's camera game and brings them at least to parity with their most strenuous competition. Finally, I'm just going to lump build quality and overall experience in this. The build of the iPhone 11 Pro is among the best I've ever experienced in a phone. The matte glass finish on the back is maybe the nicest look I've seen on a phone in the era of glass steel sandwich phones. The screen looks great, but the phone is also easy to use. It's familiar in that way that iPhones usually are. Some find that boring, but I find it comforting. Much of what's changed with the iPhone 11 Pro will go unnoticed day-to-day use. If you're an iPhone user, you will pick this iPhone up and you won't really notice this, that, or the other thing that's different about it. Dark mode, if that's something that gets you going. Some of the camera stuff really extends the possibilities that you can have with the camera. As you dig deeper into iOS 13, you'll find a lot of changes in places like Photos, in the camera app, with Siri and otherwise. But right out of the box, dark mode was the game changer for me. Those are the aspects of the iPhone 11 Pro that have kept the phone in my pocket over the last 30 days when compared to the other stuff out there that I've tried, the other offerings that are out there. The iPhone has just been the best overall experience for me, from build quality to features, etc., etc. It's remarkable to me that the iPhone 11 Pro has simply just like sort of slotted itself into the space formerly occupied by my iPhone XR, and I haven't missed a beat. To be that consistent with your product from year to year is more of an achievement than having a bunch of new features everyone will forget about after a week or so. It almost feels like there's no real need to review an iPhone anymore. The best thing that could be said about an iPhone is it's an iPhone. That in and of itself tells you pretty much everything you need to know. If you've had an iPhone before, this iPhone will be exactly the same thing, but a little faster with a couple of new doodads and a fresh version of the operating system. iPhones have become a model of consistency. Year in and year out, they remain stalwart and reliable, while other companies might have good or bad years. The worst you could say about an iPhone release is that it's kind of boring. But by now, we all know what we're getting when we open the box. Yes, the iPhone is still more expensive than it should be. Yes, the notch is something that bothers a lot of people to this day. And yes, there's always the promise that next year's phone will bring improvements that will overshadow what we have here in the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. But this year, what we thought was going to be another year where Apple just marked time until the next big redesign, we got some major improvements to a phone that actually make this phone worth the title Best iPhone Ever. And yet, it's still just an iPhone. And that's what makes it special. Let me know what you think. Have you tried the new iPhones? Are you in the market for an iPhone? iPhone 11 Pro, Pro Max, iPhone 11. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments below. We'll have a boisterous discussion. Do you think it's important to switch? Do you think it's not important to switch? I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. Anyway, thanks again for being here. I really do appreciate it. If this was your first time here and you want to come on back again, then you can like, subscribe, bell, notify yourself. And if you've been here before, thank you ever so much for coming back again. We have new merchandise that you can purchase down in the description below. We have channel memberships that you can avail yourself of and become more ingrained in the Painfully Honest ecosystem. It's a great time to be in the Painfully Honest ecosphere, whatever that means. At any rate, once again, my name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.